Oh, here we are. I think
We're
we're live.
initialized.
Guys ready? Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another ATL on Fire podcast show where we talk all things Atlanta United soccer and all things football. And as always, I'm joined by Dave and Carmen. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Great.
Better
All
than
right.
Atlanta United.
Yeah.
Oh, what are you
And-
trying to say, Carmen?
I don't know.
If you're new to the show, make sure you subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate you guys subscribing. Ring the bell so you get notifications on our upcoming podcasts. We're also on all of the major podcast platforms. You'll find us on Apple and Spotify and Google, etc. So if you're new to the show, tell a friend. If you're joining us live here on YouTube, hopefully we're getting the live streams a little smoother here. We haven't had technical difficulties in a few
Why
runs
would you
here.
say that?
Knock on wood. So feel free to add comments in the chat if you're joining us live. And we've got a few games to talk about. The U.S. Open Cup where we won 3-0. And then as far as MLS games, another very disappointing home loss against a good DC United, but a team that we should beat. And
I wouldn't have said good.
yeah, except
they were one spot above us in the table, but
yeah, and so we say we're good, so they're better, so we're
well,
good, I guess, especially since they
all
beat
right,
us.
All right.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to say they're good either, though.
Okay.
Man, it's tough being a podcaster of Atlanta United these days. How are you guys holding up?
Tough road. Yeah.
Tough road.
Oh,
Carmen,
But we have fabulous sponsors.
yes,
we do.
That's worth something.
So, yeah, we have
Oh,
two sponsors to thank. We'll get those out of the way quickly. Let's talk about some beer, Carmen. If you're into beer, Wild Heaven Brewery was for you. And they had a big art festival here this last weekend. I know there was a lot of wine being poured by our other sponsor, Wolf Mountain Vineyards. But yeah, if you haven't been to Wild Heaven, there's two locations, one on the west end of Atlanta, and there's one here in Avondale Estates.
If you haven't been, go now.
Yeah, go now.
Like, stop listening to the podcast.
Probably
go
a
now.
good idea. Probably a good idea.
No, I'm just kidding. Listen to the podcast and then go.
But we also want to thank Wolf Mountain Vineyards, who is located in Dahlonega, Georgia, part of the Dahlonega Plateau, which we learned from our recent podcast up there that it is now kind of a certified wine region within the U.S. They make some great wines. They have amazing views up there in the Dahlonega Mountains.
What a great day up there, sitting at the terrace, drinking wine, looking over the valley. I mean, it's gorgeous.
And I should have texted y'all. Brandon was actually down at the brewery pouring wine on Saturday at the art festival.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, they were sharing some glasses of some nice red wine. And hopefully some of you guys made it down there. So
I was working on my house.
All right. We've got two games as mentioned. Oh, no. Before we get into that, Dave, you brought us a lovely.
Oh,
But
yeah.
y'all like the pinotage I brought last time. So I brought another pinotage from South Africa.
A barista?
Yes, correct. It's a barista.
2022.
It's a little bit nicer of the pinotage. What do y'all think?
It's very nice. Definitely I drink so much cab that it has such a different smell to it.
Okay.
And just really like the change up. So.
Pinotage can really taste like very, very different depending on the wine. It can take on all kinds of unusual flavors.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Yeah, I mean,
it's really nice.
Very good.
Yeah, this is different than the last. Very different than
Very
the last
different
one.
than the last.
Uh-huh. And both very good. And I was supposed to be detoxing after the Avondale Wine Fest this past weekend, but I will partake for the podcast, for you podcasters.
Suffering.
Suffering.
All right, on to the footy.
Before we get onto the suffering part, we did have a win at the Kennesaw Stadium.
Yeah.
And that was Tuesday night, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And it was a rough first half, that's for sure.
Well, so we had all of these, predictions going, and I think, I predicted correctly that he was going to go with a completely changed lineup, and he did.
Right, he did. Yeah, we saw some staples in there. I think we had Gregerson start that game.
Gregerson and Dax McCarty, although he hasn't really been a starter, but Gregerson was the only starter who started.
And Hernandez started as the captain, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And God bless Dean Gregerson, proceeded to limp off 5 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
No.
But now the interesting thing is he looked like he was limping off after sort of a challenge, and then they went off and they were doing the concussion protocol on him. And then they said that he's in the concussion protocol, which I don't want to say is better, but it's better. Because it's not at least the knee injury and the meniscus that he had.
Right.
I see. Now, this is where I think the rub is. I think we're learning that players, no matter what, will put their hands on their head, which is what he did. I saw him land on his knee funny on that play.
But they said then even for the weekend game against DC that he was still in the concussion protocol. That was published.
Yeah, that's code
you
for
think you're still
that's
lying?
code for his meniscus isn't right. I mean,
okay.
I am being really,
certainly if he got hit in the head, I didn't see it. It wasn't part of the play. I don't know.
Yeah, and I certainly did see him come down funny on his knee, which he had just had a meniscus tweak to. I think this is going to be a real problem in MLS with the new 2-minute
conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
I don't even think it's a conspiracy theory at this point. I think you saw it with Miles Robinson in the Cincinnati
But he didn't
game.
have to do that in the game. Why can't he just?
Because it gives you an option. If let's say he actually is like, no, guys, my knee's okay. You put him right back on the field because he's like, concussion protocol doesn't warrant the 2 minutes.
Okay. All right.
Unless I'm wrong there. If y'all comment, if you're listening in.
One question, do you know whether you have to, so if a guy is in the concussion protocol and you have to sub him, does that count as a substitution window?
It also doesn't count as a substitution window.
Yeah.
So there's two advantages. That's the other point
Okay.
I forgot to make.
All
All right.
So I think
when you sub in the first 5 minutes, that's a huge advantage if you don't use a substitution
regardless, there's one advantage,
Okay.
if not two advantage. And so, yes, when they subbed, it didn't get counted as one of the regular subs.
That's awfully cynical of you, Mike Adams.
I mean,
You're probably right.
I'm about to say, if we were playing in this time, we would be grabbing our heads as well.
Mikey Dobbs grabs his head anyway, even while he's podcasting.
100%. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a
In
directive.
fact, it's probable that he's in the concussion protocol right now.
It wouldn't even have to be a directive from the coach. If you're a player and you knew that was going to give your team advantage and they make the rules, then, they're there to be, unless it's like, unless you're doping or something like that. I mean, you're just bending the rules.
Okay. I thought it was really good because it wasn't his knee, but maybe I'm wrong.
I'm going to go back and look. We didn't come with our strongest lineup out of the gates. It was a mixed bag.
Yep.
And it basically went exactly as I described it to Carmen. And Carmen was like, yeah, I think it's going to be that. It kind of was that. It was a very mixed bag of, sure, we dominated possession. We had more chances, yet there was a moment where, just based on poor refereeing, Dave, there was a clear penalty that the ref did not award
in the
Charlotte
first
independence.
half. Yeah, so again, on this play, Hernandez is playing left back, and he was super pinching in. Does this remind you of something? And they play out wide. He allows the guy to run at him. And then everybody says, which is true, he made a terrible lunge at it, right? And it should have been an absolute penalty kick. They called a foul, but they called it outside the box. It was clearly inside the box. Yeah. And, people are going to say Hernandez is a terrible defender, and it was a terrible defensive play. Yeah. But as soon as you allow a guy to run at you like that, you're in trouble, no matter who you are. I don't care if you're Maldini, right? You're in big trouble if the guy's running at you. So, yeah, it was terrible. We should have been down 1-0. Yeah. We were not. We survived.
We survived the first half is all you really can say, because at the end of the day, we could have been easily down 1-0 at halftime.
We really had one good chance, I think, in the first half. We looked awful in the first half, first of all. Yeah. But we only had one good play in the first half. Brennan put in a beautiful cross to Gordon, who was wide open at the penalty spot, right? And he tried to shoot it with his left foot, which is a stronger foot. He's left-footed, and he really should have hit it with his right. Anyway, he hit a weak shot right at the goalkeeper. It was pretty poor.
It was.
You got to do better than that.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't even test the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper just picked it up. Yeah.
So we go in at halftime.
And Firmino actually scuffed one in the first half off a corner. It was a little bit hard. It was a bouncing, but he really didn't do well on it. I thought the only thing that looked good in the first half was maybe Luke Brennan. Like, almost everything good was coming from him the whole game, really. Now, some people have been calling for him to play for the full side. I didn't see despite the fact that I thought he was terrific, I didn't
Uh-huh.
see anything that looked like he was going to light it up at the MLS level.
No.
I mean, he's tricky with the ball at his feet, but he's not big. He's not fast. He's not. He didn't seem overly tricky. He seems smart on the ball.
We also saw Josh Cohen for the first time in goal.
Correct.
What did you think?
Yeah, what'd y'all think?
Well, he didn't really have to do that much.
Right.
He made one horrible play. Ball was shot right at him, and he spilt it right across the middle of the box, which was terrible.
Okay.
Fortunately, there was nobody there.
Right.
He made one absolutely terrific play on a corner. He came out and just dominated in the air with a punch, which I thought was terrific. We haven't seen that from a goalkeeper in Atlanta.
And you were saying, you texted me. I said, doesn't he look short? I looked him up online. He's not that short. He's 6'1". At least maybe that means he's just over 6 feet.
Yeah,
6 feet.
6'1" with the.
But yeah, I guess in the grand scheme of starting goalkeepers in professional soccer, the answer is yes. He is short. I think when we had the Rios Novos days, we talked a lot about height. We looked that up. Like the average professional goalkeeper is 6'2" or taller.
Yes.
So again, those inches, add up. But he looked good.
He looks quick.
Yeah.
And he's definitely quick as a shot stopper. Really quick.
Okay.
And I give him a pass on that horrible rebound.
Yeah.
It was an awkward bounce, and I feel like he hasn't played consistent. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy who played Champions League soccer, so yeah, I think we can trust
in the group stage. No less. When he was in Israel, they got to the group stage with like Paris Saint-Germain and Juventus, and then his Israeli side. So he's played against real teams.
Okay, very cool.
All right.
Okay, second half. Much better.
Did we make those subs at the halftime or
no?
The 60th minute?
Yeah, we scored first.
Okay.
So the first goal, Dax McCarty plays a beautiful ball out to Brennan. He plays a simple overlapping ball to Edwards, and then overlapping back, and he just pulls it back towards the top of the 18 for Firmino, and it does a beautiful job just putting it back where it came from, slotted it home.
Yep.
Real nice.
Yeah.
Now, so Firmino is going to go on. We'll talk about the second goal in a minute to score a brace. And I think a lot of people are like, come on, that's what we've been talking about. Shouldn't he get time? I mean, he did well on the two finishes. I thought
for who though? Like who would you take off to put Firmino?
Yeah, well, that's one thing. But the question is whether he's certainly not going to replace Gigi. But the question is whether he should be the primary backup over TRA or over Rios.
Rios certainly seems like he's earning the right to be.
Well, Rios scores in this game too. I have not actually, after initial look at Rios, where I was like, okay, maybe he's going to be good. I've not been so impressed by Rios. I think he's not great.
As far as our backups lately, I don't know that he's great.
I'd like to see Tiare back again, but he's hurt.
Right.
He looked really good this year. He looked like a wild guy last year, but this year he looked really good. So in the early things, and that I thought, we finally have a really good backup, maybe. Yeah. And then he got hurt. So I don't know. But anyway, so the thing about Firmino is I was watching him in the U.S. Open Cup, and it's a little hard on the horrible coverage that we have off the live stream, but because I wasn't in Kennesaw. His movement, and that was true when he came up for the Atlanta United a couple of times. His movement's not great.
So can you describe that for the listeners, like how you're judging his movement?
Well, the really, really good strikers are constantly shifting before the ball is coming and, drifting into good spaces and then attacking, try to get it. And sometimes they don't play it to them when they're trying to make a through run, and then they'll kind of circle back and then they're going again. And there's a lot of little darting movements, right? Mm-hmm. And he seems to be in the buildup. He seems to be good in the box. Like he looks like he could finish, right? In the box, he looks like legit, but in the buildup, he doesn't seem to be darting and moving around.
He's not torturing defenders with little pump fakes.
No.
And
it's not the kind of guy you're like, oh God, do I got to play against him?
Yeah, you got to sneak around.
Now that's all coachable, and he could get better. He's still only like 23 or something.
I don't know that's more. That's kind of an innate kind of talent.
Yeah, some people innately have it, but it's also coachable.
It comes a little later in your game too. Sometimes as a striker, you either kind of have that like drive and kind of that movement comes from just always wanting to be like secretly, torturing that back line.
Right.
Erling Haaland's like the ultimate example of torturing the back line. I mean, just because he's a physical specimen. But again, Gigi too is pretty damn good at that too.
Gigi's constantly moving, probing.
Yeah.
And,
but
doing stuff.
and when he can't torture the back line with those little movements as you described, he will drop back. And
he really drops somebody in the midfield. Holds the ball up. Yeah. And I haven't seen that Firmino either. Like, I haven't really seen him dropping in, being a target, finding an outlet. Like,
yeah. So the second goal, Dave, from Firmino, as you mentioned, was his brace. I think that was the one where Wiley gets subbed in, I guess. And maybe I'm jumping your notes there, but Wiley was in. He was actually subbed in as a forward on the left side.
Yeah, so they brought in Lennon and Wiley, and we thought, okay, they're killing off the game with the two outside backs. But it turned out, so Lennon did go to right back. Yeah. But Wiley did not come in as a left back. He came in as a left forward.
Which, after you texted that to me, because I was like, I don't
For
really.
Gordon.
I was like, I don't know that, doing the same old, Lennon, Wiley, sit back in the fullback in this particular game was the best sub. But once I learned that Wiley was going to be used as an attacker on the forward position, that actually gave me a little hope that Pineda was at least mixing some things up.
Yeah.
And clearly it worked out of the gates there. Wiley gets down to the end line, does a really nice cutback. Firmino comes in stride and hits it far.
The interesting thing on that second goal, nobody's going to give him any credit, and probably nobody even saw it. So Dax McCarty ran onto the ball, and there was a guy right in front of him, and he faked it and dummied it.
One that was going to Wiley?
No, that went to Firmino. He dummied it right before Firmino scored. What a play. I mean, an absolute stunning play. And that threw off everything. It threw off the goalkeeper, threw off the defender, and Firmino did a good job finishing it.
So is that when Wiley cut it back? Because it was kind of a slow cut. I think you're saying I missed that. The Dax had like a little bit of a dummy step over or something.
Step over.
Just caught everybody
right through his legs at the last second. Real nice.
All right. Very nice.
Yeah, real pretty. Fancy.
All right. And I don't remember the third goal. Was that
well, so the interesting thing, so for all those people out there like super Firmino, and I really, again, who's going to criticize? He scores 2 goals. He's great, whatever. He's terrific, couple terrific finishes.
Sounds like you are, Dave.
Well, one thing I'll say is that he didn't torture the Charlotte defense. And you're like, okay, whatever, who knows? Like, maybe the defense is really good. Yeah. So Xande Silva comes in the game. And he starts going around their backs like they're cones. Yeah. Right. I mean, he was torturing these defenders. Like, and it made me feel like, now granted they were a little tired and he comes on late, so that's an advantage. But he made it look like, that was my little downgrade of Firmino, because Xande Silva looks so much better than him against those defenders. Right. He just went around, and the second goal, he literally got the ball. I literally thought the guy was maybe a cone. Like, he never moved. He just made a shimmy around, was gone. And the guy was like, where'd he go? Yeah. And he went to the end line. He crossed it. Rio smashed it home. Yeah. Right. Okay. Nice goal. Really nice goal. But Xande Silva got in there and he just went by the back line.
I noticed that right
every time. He was like, bye-bye.
Okay. Got it.
So, that made me feel like the second team that we put on for that game wasn't that great. Yep.
All right. Well, they all mentioned a lot of names that I didn't even recognize, like Edwards and
these are all Atlanta United 2s.
Okay. And Peyton Plays, who is on the chat, said Morales.
The center back. Yeah. Okay. So he played once. We've had so many center back injuries, right? So he played, and he looked good in this game.
He looked good in the previous game. He missed the hero moment to
he could have won it. Yeah, the MLS game.
But other than that, I thought he had
he came forward really late in the game. Was it a corner or just in live cross? Anyway, he had a chance to head it in, and he missed by about 6 inches. Yeah, I mean, he should have headed it in.
He was so close,
wide open, but it was a great run. It's a great run, and you're like, you have a trouble criticizing a center back for missing a goal in the
You could see his face. I felt for him because he's a young kid. I was like, oh.
One thing one thing I feel about him early on, and we haven't seen much of him, so it's hard to say, but he's really aggressive, right? So he's trying to win the ball all the time, and he's very physical. He's big, dude, and he's very physical. So I like that front foot. Yeah. I didn't get the impression that he was reading the game that well. But again, I remember I felt that way about Noah Cobb too. And as Noah Cobb has settled a little bit, he looks like he's reading it a lot more. It's very hard to come in as a new kid and be like, I'm going to read the game perfectly in my first game, right? Exactly. So,
Okay. Anyway. Well, good.
So we advance on to, what is it, the round of 16?
Yeah.
And as you noted, Dave was like, "Wow, there's only 6 MLS teams left in the in the cup." But I reminded David there was only 8 to begin with. The rest of the MLS teams,
But 2 went out.
2 went out.
Houston went out.
Houston and is it Seattle? Maybe
Seattle went out. I think that was it. Yeah. So 2 of the big MLS teams that were in the competition went out. So those were shambolic losses.
Yeah. So
our chances of winning the cup,
oh gosh, don't
to
say
save
it. Don't say
Pineda's
it.
job,
Don't say it out loud.
Yeah.
right? Our chances are pretty good. I said this from before the season. Before the season, people, if we go back to the early podcast, I said, if I were Pineda, right? So we have no chance of winning the League's Cup because all the guys are going to be on international duty, right? And you're not winning the League's Cup against the best Mexican teams without Almada, for example. But I said the U.S. Open Cup, nobody's playing in it. It's a trophy. It's probably a tainted trophy, but it's a trophy. Yeah. And if I were Pineda, I would have said, forget the League's Cup and let's go for the U.S. Open Cup, right? And that's a tournament. I just go and win it. Like if your job's going to be on the line, which I felt like maybe he might be at this point, and it's looking not so good, I would have gone for that.
Well, I agree. He's got to go for that. It's one lifeline. I think as we get into reviewing this DC United game next, Dave, here, I think it's too little too late, even with a win. If we have the same type of result in the MLS as we did last year. So if we even make it in the playoffs and fizzle out in the first round, that U.S. Cup is going to be long forgotten. And I think Garth Lagerwey, I mean, I don't know where he lives. I don't know if it's going to be the same thing as the Manchester United boss, but I think some supporter groups might be in his front yard. I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not recommending that. I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying.
Mikey Dawes has already been in his bushes.
Not inciting any
he's like, I don't know where he lives, but here's his address.
So, all right, Dave. So on to DC United.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with the first things first. So one of the things, I'm going to start with the negative, and then I'm actually going to be a pretty positive, Carmen.
Okay. I'm ready for it.
Most people are like, are you kidding me? You got to have the most negative. But let's get to it. Right. So let's start with the negative. So the beginning, so he has the 2 wingers as Saba and Mascara.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 problems with that. As we've been talking about, I've said, if we don't have Xande Silva, and Xande Silva was not starter, that's clearly an injury, they're bringing him back slowly or whatever, right?
You said to shift Almada over there.
Yes, and play with the extra midfielder.
Play Dax McCarty.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I would have done. We're forcing Mascara. And particularly, you're really forcing Mascara when you play him on the left. Because on the left, he is terrible. Right. One thing is that, so clearly what Mascara likes to do is use his pace. And he likes to push the ball, and he likes to go right. So on the right side, you see him bombing down and going, but try to go by people.
Yeah.
On the left side, never does, because he doesn't want to go fast to his left. So if you take a player who is one-dimensional,
because he got beat on a pretty nice pass down the left side.
Yeah,
and
that was.
And I was like, he had the step on him, and he got beat by a defender.
The speed-wise, I was
so
like,
if you're thinking, it's like, where's Mascara's speed?
Now that was weird. I don't know what that was about, but anyway, if you have a player who's got one thing good for him, which is Mascara's pace, is the thing that's good for him, right? Mm-hmm. And he will only use his pace when he's on the right. You cannot play him on the left.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. And he finally on the right too slowly started getting better at delivery.
Yes.
Because he was awful at delivery.
Yes, beginning when he first came, his first stint with the club.
On the right side, he was getting more comfortable with his delivery and the timing and all that. So agreed. He should only be out on the right.
Yeah. And now what I don't understand. So clearly Pineda knows that a little bit. The first time he played him, he moved Saba over, right? So Saba started on the left and Mascara started on the right, which makes totally much more sense to me. And then Saba had a bad game. So suddenly Saba can't play on the left. He's like more comfortable on the right. I don't know whether Saba said anything to him or not, but Saba's a 2-footed player who likes to come inside or whatever, right? There's no problem with playing that guy on the left. I mean, come on. And in fact, we even see him sometimes when he's really given a lot of freedom, which I think they've been cutting down on. Early on in his career this season, he was actually, sometimes he would just by himself run across the field and end up on the left. So he clearly doesn't mind being there, right? if you're gonna play Mascara, right? Let Saba have a chance to get comfortable on the left. Like, try it. Now, obviously, if you're watching the game and you're 10 minutes in and you're like, Saba's not doing whatever, you could just make a signal and be like, switch, try it. Coaches do that all the time. But how you start with Mascara on the left is terrible. And to be honest with me, he keeps showing that he agrees with us. So Wolf started and then Wolf didn't. And then Mascara started and then he didn't. Then Wolf started, so he doesn't like any of them the way they're playing. And we agreed. We think that all of them, when they've started, have been terrible.
Not good.
So,
but why not play the extra midfielder? And he clearly knows that it's possible, because in this second half, when he brought on Dax McCarty at halftime, he brought on Dax McCarty for Mascara and went to the lineup that we had.
Yeah.
And what happened in the second half, the first few minutes? We scored.
Yep.
So why not?
So a quick note on that position with Wolf being out. You had brought it up in the last podcast. You said, something has definitely been off with Wolf, whether it's,
did you figure it out?
Mental, whether it's unhappiness with whatever's going on, an underlying injury. Seems like it was an underlying injury. He's out for 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. He had some sort of,
somehow I missed that.
Some sort of injury that, I guess it
I saw it. I said something's wrong.
Yeah, something's wrong. So I don't know if that's been known and he's just been playing
trying to play through it because he's like, I got my one chance to play, so I'm just going to play, but clearly wasn't working.
But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe that's part of it. So onward.
Now, I don't know. You can start at whatever. I have a fair amount of positive things to say. Pineda changed some things.
Okay.
Do you want to know what Pineda changed?
Do tell.
Okay, we're gonna need the tactical
board. Tactical
board. I need advance notice to these things, sir. That's all right. Keep talking amongst yourselves.
You don't need advance notice.
Keep talking amongst yourselves.
So one thing I'll say is, DC United. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, before you get into anything positive.
Yep.
I am curious how you have much positive to say when you go into a game with a guy who at Crystal Palace had 32 goals. Probably most of those were on his head.
Yep.
Coming into DC United.
He played for some big clubs, not just Crystal Palace.
Yeah, he played for Liverpool and he played for Villa with our boy Brad Guzan back in the day.
Oh, I did not know that.
So, he lit it up with some goals.
He scored. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a couple of seasons at least he scored over 15 goals in the Premier League.
Oh, so
he's a legit player.
Yeah, he had all told at Villa. I don't know how many years he was there. He had 42 total goals. Yeah. At Palace, he had 32.
Yeah, this is
with with 80 games, something like
Belgian?
that. Belgian, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, you got a guy that's got that pedigree who clearly loves to score his head. Super strong physical guy. Like, you're going to have somebody on him all game, smothering him with physicality. Did you see that, Dave?
I don't think.
And if Pineda was going to get the tactics right, you would have to. I would want him so annoyed. Somebody clipping at his heels, little things just close enough to be in a yellow card the whole game. That's what I would have said at a one-on-one to one of my players and make sure that happened. Did that happen, Dave?
But here's first of all, I didn't think he was running free. But second of all, your two options at center back to do that are Cobb, who's playing like literally his.
I don't care who it is.
Game.
I didn't see it, Dave.
And what I'm saying is the center backs that we have to do that are probably not capable of doing that. Right. So Abram is not good. And
we're about to get to it on that goal that you showed where we had. That's a prime example of not getting coached up to it. Sorry.
We're going to go to that clip. First, I just want to set the table because I think when we watch the clip, I think you're going to see something very different. So bring up the tactical board. Thank you, Carmen.
Oh, I'm getting fired up already.
I know. I was about to press that. You finished right before.
All right. So we made two changes. Well, two changes that we have been screaming for, honestly. So first of all, I'm going to just move them up the field because we'll pretend like we're out here. So for those of you who are just on the podcast, you got to go check out the YouTube channel. All right. So So we have been playing with Sleaze and Muyumba as the dreaded double pivot, right? And I've said, look, Sleaze doesn't need the help, and Muyumba looks like. Remember, I said free Muyumba.
Free Muyumba.
So in this game, he freed Muyumba.
Did he?
He actually played with. We looked. I'll move it back so it's a little easier to see. We played with Sleaze as a free roll, true defensive midfield.
So then it wasn't a double.
No,
pivot?
there was no double pivot in this game. So, and he played with Almada and Muyumba like this. Now, I still have a problem with this because what I was saying, if you're, and I think Pineda could be listening, or somebody from the club could be listening to this, because they keep doing a lot of the things that we're trying to push them for. I would have said, look, Sleaze plays the defensive midfield here. Muyumba plays in front of him, and this is just the two. And Almada just has the free roll. He didn't do that. He kind of pigeonholed Muyumba on the right and Almada on the left. And he still didn't really free Muyumba. He wasn't playing in the double pivot next to Sleaze. He freed Sleaze, right, to do this, all the time.
Left and right.
So that's the first thing. But I thought this is probably better than the double pivot, although it worked out less well probably in the end because Muyumba wasn't really free. Free him. Anyway, and then the other thing that happened, I mean, you guys are not going to believe this. So he stopped.
The pinch?
Well, he stopped Saba and Mascara tracking in behind the backs.
Okay.
So these guys were forward.
And I noticed that at least on the goal where Wiley gets beat down to the end line and they cross it, it was a very different look.
Yeah.
You could tell in that goal.
Yeah.
There was no responsibility, to your point, on whoever the left forward was to track back. It was clear that was Wiley's, which I liked. Yeah. And Wiley got beat.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
So
it's going to happen.
We've been having this crazy thing where Mascara, let's say, was tracking in behind Wiley like this. And we've said this is two problems. One, he's got to come all the way back, which is terrible when Wiley could just step out and mark him, right? And then the other problem is when we win the ball, we got no one to play to, right? If Mascara's back here and Wiley wins the ball, who's he going to play to? Which is why what was forcing to happen is Almada kept coming deeper and deeper and deeper because he was the only guy to play to. Right. So now we actually left Mascara and Saba kind of up the field. So now when Wiley won the ball, there was a guy to play to.
All right.
So I was like, whoa, right? Like what we actually seem like we're correcting some things. Now, the other thing is, so now we're matching up directly with our left back against their right forward and our right back Lennon against their left forward. It was a direct matchup. Right now, Wiley seemed to do a little better instead of being pinched in here. He was kind of here.
Well, he's not used to actually defending anymore.
Yes,
so that's part of the problem.
I think that's exactly what happened is that Lennon and Wiley have been so long where they haven't defended. Lennon kept coming in here anyway and leaving the guy open. And you're like, whoa, wait a second. If this guy's not coming back to here and you're not coming here, then, this is a disaster. And on the goal that we gave up, the one that you're talking about that we're going to show in a minute. Well, both goals actually, right? So the goal that we gave up, right? Wiley is actually out there and he goes toe to toe with this guy and the guy just gets to the end line first and gets across.
Yeah. And I'm curious because Abram's kind of left in between there. Mm-hmm. What do you think about his positioning on that play? Because it ends up being a very good cross right to Benteke's head, who, that's going to be tough when you put it on a plate for him, whoever was marking him. Yeah. They didn't put enough elbow grease on them, but that was the one goal that I was like, okay.
We can give that.
I was like, so that's a tough mark on Benteke with all the momentum. You're getting run at. Wiley gets beat. Like, I'm not going to blame that on the center back.
It was Cobb, yeah.
But
he was draped all over him.
Yeah, he was close to him. But Abram was caught in the middle of nowhere. He didn't step up to either help Wiley or drop back and double up on Benteke. Yeah. And he had no assignment. So that's my question. When we see it on the video here, Dave, I'm curious of, did he do anything wrong, or was he just
what happens as you'll see on the video, we turn the ball over way up here. And the moment we turn the ball over, we're in really good pressing position, right? So we actually, I'll show you how we looked. So we ended up, Sleaze was kind of right here in front of him. Abram was here. You'll see it in a second on the clip. We actually looked like we were in pretty good position. Almada was somewhere way up here. Okay, so we turned the ball over here. We tried to play through. And I think it was Lennon kind of coming up here for whatever. So in any case, the moment the ball turned over, Muyumba, the free Muyumba, now he was there to pressure. Now he wasn't really pressuring that much. I think we could have actually, if somebody had worked hard again. So I'm gonna say my take home conclusion for this. So I think he actually got the tactics much better in this game. He finally got it right. But we've been playing so poor tactics for so long, the players didn't respond to it. Right? Muyumba was free, but didn't look like he was all action. Right. And Wiley was marked up man to man, but he was like, I haven't done this in a while. Right. And so it looked kind of like, but I would say stick with it. Don't give up.
I was about to say, but don't you expect now that we didn't get there's he's going to tinker again?
Yes, I think he will, because he doesn't really know what the problem is, and he can't see what all he'll see is that we give up 3 goals. I think as we'll go through these goals, we gave up 3 pretty good goals, and instead of the goals that we've been giving up, where there's like super free cross and there was clearly a breakdown, most of the goals they kind of earned. And like this first one,
2 of them,
we had a lot of pressure and they actually pinged it around like 3 one-touch passes. They played a long ball up here. Cobb was right on him, right? So this whatever guy was here.
Beautiful head or chest back.
Benteke, who was got a Cobb right on him. He heads the ball. Like Sleaze goes to close it down a little. He heads the ball perfect diagonal here. Like that is really getting out of the back. If you force them to play 3 one-touch passes and then the guy plays a 30-yard ball out of his own box to Benteke's head and he heads it across to the open guy, sometimes you have to just tip your hat, right?
Yep.
And so what happens then is that this guy dribbles with the ball here. And I don't think it's a Brahms' fault because he actually comes and has to stay home it a little bit here. And what they end up doing is he plays in behind and Wiley just gets beat for pace.
Yeah, which is he didn't time that very well.
He got awkward the way he turned, and then he did recover. So this guy had a big lead first. He was sort of out here, but Wiley kind of chased him down. And when he finally got the cross, he was a little bit ahead. You know, Mikey Dobbs said it was a free cross, and I was like, yeah, it was a free cross, but he had a little bit of pressure on him. It wasn't like he was there looking all day and having, you know, we talked about the tea party that he could have had.
Right.
It wasn't a tea party.
It wasn't like he had like all day look up, but I mean, he had plenty of time to get his foot around and curl it right to a huge Benteke standing there in the box. I mean, there's definitely time for him to be looking up as he went and time it to where he knew Wiley's foot wasn't going to get there in time.
So let's pull up the highlights of their first goal and you can see it.
I mean, that's how bad Wiley got beat on that, which was shocking that he got beat for pace. But again, I think it's
at least a player got beat.
I totally. That's exactly what I thought. I was like, I think it's just because Wiley's not used to actually having that as
like
his.
What? I have to defend.
That's your job.
It is part of your job.
So, all right, Dave, you're going to take over on the YouTube.
Oh.
So, yeah, again, if you're listening, we'll break this down on YouTube and take it away, Dave.
All right. So I think it's somewhere.
Yeah, it's right around there. Yeah, it's right after the PK.
So. Okay, so let's play and okay. So we just tried to play through right to Saba. All right, he's here. So at the beginning of this clip, DC United takes over the ball and they're in their own back corner. Muyumba is here on the right side, as he said. Now, one of the things I'll say, as I'll stop it in a second, Muyumba, Saba, Gigi, who was in a good position getting ready to run, he'll come over here, and we end up in a very good pressing situation. So let's play the clip a little bit. They play forward. Now, look here, right? So first of all, you'll say Lennon is right there, marked up, which he hasn't been in forever, right? Muyumba is in a decent pressing spot. He's making him, going to make a bad pass. And Saba's taken away. This looks pretty good. We're going to force him. This is where they sometimes give the ball away.
I don't love Muyumba's position that much.
Yeah, Muyumba could have been better, and he doesn't go all action on this play. But look, they play this really nice ball here, right? Ooh,
now the press is pretty good.
I want to go one back. So once he plays this nice ball here, Okay. Now Gigi recovers and forces a quick ball from the center back out to wide. And now if you stop it here, that's a pretty good press. Right?
Yep.
Not bad.
Not bad.
So that's a kind of situation where it looks pretty well. Like Almada has come back over here. He could have been a little tighter, but Muyumba is going to force him to try to play through. Gigi has closed it down here. Has closed out the goalkeeper.
Assuming that the backs are up, which we're about to see, Cobb is right on.
They are.
Right?
Even our backs are up.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, we look like a real team.
Yeah, so he bangs
this forward. And here, so Sleaze was in a great defensive spot, as a defensive midfielder getting ready to take their most obvious option. They forced him to kick a long ball from his own penalty area, and Cobb is right on his back.
Yeah.
Right? So he now forces Benteke out of the air off a 35-yard long ball to play a perfect knockdown header, and he does.
Yes, he does.
Right? I mean, he plays this beautifully, right? And so now they have escaped the pressure.
Okay.
Right.
I'm going to go back to my original point, though. In some games, though, Dave, the Cobb was great position on any given day for that. In this game, you have to be, I mean, I'm saying like maybe even get a foul there against Benteke. You're playing against a guy who came hammer him. So credit he was there and Benteke made it, but you don't give a guy that just came from the Premier League the ability to, he's going to do that. He's going to lay down a perfect header. And that's, again, my point of like Cobb.
Yeah.
Son,
he's young.
You're young. I was like, I want you. This is your moment. You're going up against a Premier League player.
Yeah.
If anything, man, at least get a yellow in this game. Piss him off.
I agree.
That's an opportunity. That goes back to my original point.
But that's not him not knowing the assignment. I think that's just youth and him not being.
Yeah, that's a coach not telling him, hey, I'm giving you a little freedom to play very aggressive.
To take that foul.
Take the foul. Like you're going to have that one moment, irritate him.
But now here's the thing, right? So they're still attacking 3v4, and this guy actually joins the attack too. So it ends up being 4v4. But Sleaze, again, recovers very, very well to get over here to play the pressure, right? Wiley's in good. He's looking at the guy. He's in a great spot. He's close enough, right? And Abram is in the center of the park like he should be because it was over here before. Again, defensively, we look like we're in pretty good shape here.
Yeah.
Right. We've looked like at some plays where we're like, oh my God, close your eyes, children. But, this doesn't look like that. So now he dribbles for a while and the second guy joins it. In fact, he plays to the second guy. But even after he plays to the second guy, right, Sleaze has come over here. So it's very clear that this guy can't go through. Sleaze is ready to take that. There's a decent recovery run here. Right. I don't know if that's Almada.
This is what's interesting too on this play. Again, this is where I was like, oh my gosh, like Wiley knows he's at least
knows he's supposed to.
He's balanced here.
Yeah.
This is good. The team, all things said, it was in a good shape, and you can see when it gets past here, Wiley just gets caught like cross-footed or flat-footed here.
I honestly think Sleaze could have done better here because Sleaze I think could have come over more aggressively. There was nobody there.
But that's just slow.
So he's there, but he
still
closed him down.
I mean,
if you would have bet on that play, who do you think is going to win that ball?
I know, right there. I'm like, how is Wiley not sliding even to get that? Like,
how does he miss this?
How does he miss that?
That's a guy who hasn't played defense.
That's a guy who hasn't played defense in a while.
I agree.
He's never been out there. He wouldn't know what to do. But that's a win. That is what we've been talking about. That is a very winnable ball.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's good. And Abram's doing nothing. He should be helping.
Right.
So when this ball is played in behind, Abram should also be double teaming.
Abram knows that the Benteke's covered up. So he knows that he should be helping if it gets through there. I mean, that's what I was saying.
And Cobb's he stayed with Benteke the whole time.
Yeah.
So now it goes through. Now, why he didn't intercept that, Wiley, that's the mistake. He really should have gotten a tackle in there. Yeah. Now, once he's here, he can't tackle because he's going to give a penalty kick. So he's just got to chase back. Now, he just, this is not what I would call a free cross.
But again, hold on. This goes back to Abram, too. All he did on that play, to your point, is back up and back up and back up and do nothing. Again, it's unreal.
Mm-hmm.
So
especially because there's nobody in the middle. So that's your free roll. Right. He could have gone over there and helped.
Yeah.
He never does. He never gets close to closing it down. But, Cobb's in really good shape here. He's physical. He's right on him. And this is not a free cross like we've been looking at, right?
Yeah.
So that's the one that Dobbs is calling a free cross. I don't know if that's gets a cross.
Comparatively, it's not from what we've seen us before. That is not a free cross.
Oh, yeah. Right. But I mean, that's the dangerous cross because it's running that. That's the dangerous cross that we talk about that we want when Lennon can play that ball. That's the exact type of ball that's so dangerous for Lennon on the other side of the field when he gets those opportunities. All you need is half a step. I mean, come on, Dave. I mean, that's like if you had that, you're gonna be able to bend a ball in there. I mean,
I don't disagree. And then Cobb is in good shape, but then Benteke is just too strong for him.
Yeah,
and he gets close. Look at that. I mean, he's challenging that.
Yeah. That is not on Cobb at all.
Oh no! You can't. Yeah.
And to be honest with you, okay. I mean, I saw some Twitter things about saying, "Oh, look, it's the Shambelic defending. We look like a teenager team or whatever or something like that." I'm like, honestly, we forced DC United to play 3 one-touch passes in their own back third. They played a 35-yard ball. The guy made a beautiful ball right onto Benteke's head. Benteke under pressure knotted down a head ball that was behind Sleaze, right into space just to get out of it.
Yep.
Then this guy ran by Wiley,
one of our fastest players on the field.
Got a cross or whatever, best player, and then Benteke finishes with Cobb draped over him. I gotta tip my hat. I'm like, that's a good goal.
Yeah.
Right? How is that not a good goal?
It was a good goal.
Yeah. So he scores that goal. Now you want to go directly to the next goal.
Sure thing. So it's now 1-1, and Benteke is about to get his second.
Let's see who's on him this time.
Okay. It's the same thing. So here's how it starts. Again, do we look like we're poor defensively?
No, we're finally I don't see pinching in.
So what we've seen all along is Wiley in here doing nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's actually out. This is what I said. Pineda made the change. He was responsible for this. You don't really see, so here's Muyumba, here's Sleaze. Sleaze has it marked up in here. They've got a lot of guys forward. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. And Lennon is in here helping, this is 2v1. Now, again, the guy who I would say is a little bit clueless is Muyumba, right? He probably should be helping with it because we're overloaded.
Yeah. Because Saba can get the guy in the circle. Mm-hmm. He can just kind of stay back.
But Saba, and again, Saba here, I love the fact that Saba's not trying to come back here. I love him here because if we win the ball here, boom, he's counter and we go. Don't defend Saba there. Stay there. Stay right there. Let everybody win. And if they break us down, so be it. Right. But let's go play offense. Yeah. Now, how they get through, if you watch, what's going to happen is that everything looks really, really good. But the problem that happens is, again, Wiley's not used to defending. And so he and Sleaze are actually playing this dance defensively. Who's marking who? Mm-hmm. And Sleaze actually, I think, makes the right call, and Wiley never reads it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, they get in behind him. You'll see it. So first of all, they play there. So Sleaze is right on the guy, puts pressure on him. Right. I think Wiley could be better, but I don't. He's not going to get out and get that out wide. Right.
But yeah, he's in a position to.
He's in it pretty good. So they play out wide, and you would say. Right. That's pretty closed down. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're like, if you're a professional team, you're like, that's good. Go win the ball now.
Yeah.
Right. Now he plays it back and you see Sleaze was going to help him in behind in case he dribbled on him. So Sleaze doubles back to go up here. And you know who's clueless? Muyumba is in Nowhereville. Now, the other thing you'll notice is the other guy who didn't get the memo that we've changed the tactics.
I was about to say there.
Lennon. Yeah. Look what
he's so pinched in. At this point, I will be fair. Benteke at this point, I'm okay with doubling him at this point because he's already scored 2 goals or he's going to score 2 goals in
And Abram is just absolutely clueless. He's just ball watching. He has no idea to see this. Like these two guys, problem. Okay, but anyway, he plays back.
And you don't see any communication from Abram, like pointing, doing anything. Like there's no sorting out by Abram.
But
either.
I love
he's got no confidence as a center.
This
back.
is what we were talking about. I love this.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of Saba going here, even though the guy's wide open, I still want Saba here. Like, let's win the ball and go.
It'd be crazy for Saba to get back on that outside.
That's what we've been doing the whole time. And then every time they play open to this wide open, he scores. People say, "Oh, well, Saba should attract him." We're like, well, or alternatively, let's go play offense.
Yeah. Or alternatively, Muyamba go mark somebody.
Yeah. So anyway, so they play this dance. And this guy makes they switch, right? So this guy plays out wide and makes the run, right? So
Muyamba's finally figuring it out. Here's like, oh, Abram is gonna have to step on this. This wasn't hard to figure out.
Yeah, he should have been.
But neither those two, and Abram's the one facing forward. He should have been pointing at Muyamba and saying, "You know what, dude? Take my guy. I'm stepping up." Yeah. If that's how it was going to go.
Now, for all those people who say I'm in favor of, the winger stays forward or whatever, I'm in favor of this winger staying forward. Mascara should be back here helping.
Yeah.
If you're on the ball side, you got to defend. If you're on the weak side is my problem. I always want an outlet to go there. I'm not saying this guy shouldn't defend, right? He should defend, right? Anyway, so Wiley should go with him, and he doesn't. He stays locked in on this guy. You'll see what
ball watching. Ball watching.
Well, he just doesn't know. And so Sleaze makes the right read here. And so Wiley thought Sleaze had this guy, and Sleaze thought Wiley had the guy, and it should have been Wiley. He read it wrong.
Okay.
So Sleaze read it right, not surprisingly. And Wiley read it wrong, right? They switched in that moment, and that was not good. Now, the other thing is Abram could come over and help in this case if he reads it early enough. So they play, and he does come over to help. Right. So that's not bad. He's trying to shut it down. He's at least making the cross or whatever. Now, once you get here, I'm like, I get double team in Benteke, and they are trying to be physical.
They're trying, Mikey Dobbs.
But I was like, what I thought was going to happen is they were going to cross over here and he was going to score wide open. Right. That doesn't happen. So I would have said, I disagree with Mikey Dobbs. Like, you got to play this. You can't leave this guy wide open. Anyway, so they play. And it's 2v1, and Cobb does really well. He stretches here. Now look at Muyamba. You let his guy go again. Never got into the play. Never did anything.
Actively ball
But
watching.
Cobb actually wins this ball, and he clears it. Oh. But unfortunately, it goes right to DC. And the one time you would say the pinch-in is going to work, right? Because we finally got this double team. So what's going to happen? He's going to clear it, goes right back to DC, crosses it again. And because they were pinching and whatever, Lennon's still there. We got him still marked up, even though Cobb is on the ground. So Cobb goes down, and they play it to here, right? And so Cobb's out of the play, but Lennon is still capable, but he happened to clear it right to this guy.
And it was excellent, very quick whipped in cross from this guy.
And you know what the problem here was, really, honestly? Cobb, as a veteran defender, just put it over the end line. Why he's trying to clear that out the front? He's never going to clear it out there. A veteran defender with that kind of pressure would have just poked it over the end line and say, "Okay, corner."
Yeah, live to fight another day.
Live to fight another day, but he doesn't. He gives it right back, and now he crosses it again. And Lennon is here, and you know who also doesn't know how to defend? Is Lennon. Look at this. So what he should have done is head this ball. Look what he tries to do.
Karate chop.
Oh. Darn, it's so odd though to hear over and over and over again that our outside defensive backs don't know how to defend because they've forgotten how to defend because they don't know how to defend. I'm like, wait, what is that?
You know why they don't know how to defend? You know why they don't know how to defend?
Why don't they know how to defend?
Because neither of them were ever supposed to be a defender. Both Lennon and Wiley came through the entire system playing as attacking players on their club teams and whatever. They never learned how to defend starting at 6 or whatever because they weren't defenders. They were attackers. And what they've done is they were not good enough to be the Almada, let's run the ball around. So this is what happens. They're physical. They got good feet. So they make them defenders.
Yeah.
Right? So this is what happened to Wiley. There was an attacking player made left back. This is what happened to Lennon, an attacking player made right back. And all these people who are like, Lennon should be on the national team. No way. He can't defend. He's very good going forward, but he can't defend.
And Wiley clearly shouldn't be right now either because he can't defend.
I think Wiley could get better because he's such a physical specimen. And even if he's not so good in terms of reading it, he can overcome that.
Again, I mean, that's Wiley you can coach out of this slump if you're going to continue to play these good tactics of actually giving him a chance to take on a 1v1 situation and deal with the threat, you know?
But, okay. So 2 things happened. So 1, right? We actually didn't give up free crosses anymore. We also had players up the field. So when we won the ball, we had an outlet. So tactically, I thought we were really good. So Wiley gets beat twice. But, we were talking about goal after goal after goal where nobody on our team got beaten, right? At least they had to go by somebody here, right?
Yeah,
it's much better defending. And so all these people who are like, oh, we were terrible and whatever, I thought our tactics were way better.
Okay.
Don't disagree on any of that. Minus the frustrate Benteke is part of your plan, which clearly wasn't a part of the plan.
And then, as I said, so the one thing I thought was shambolic tactically was Mascara on the left, who was awful. He was awful. And you knew he was going to be awful from the beginning. I wrote it in my notes. He's going to be awful. He doesn't know how to go left. And people were like, why doesn't he use his speed? Like in our section, there were people like, why doesn't he go by him? I'm like, because he's right-footed and can't go left.
Right? And by the way, listeners, I think Dave's point of like, you take Mascara out of this equation, you shift Almada out left, you bring Dax in as this extra center, then that even frees Muyumba even more, doesn't it, Dave? Well, you don't have to worry about him knowing how to defend here. That would have been Dax McCarty reading all of that this last play much better because he's a natural born defender.
Yeah. So first of all,
am I right? Am I right?
Absolutely. So first of all, when he makes the sub, he brings in Dax McCarty for Mascara. So now we have McCarty, Muyumba, and Sleaze. So now I would have gone to the double pivot.
Oh,
right. Because Dax McCarty and Sleaze would have really controlled the midfield out of a double pivot. And they're smart, both defensively good enough to play that. He didn't. He stuck with the system.
Okay.
He put Dax McCarty as the defensive midfielder. I would not have done that. I would have left Sleaze. McCarty, I think, doesn't cover the space as well as Nessamara. But anyway, and then he put Sleaze. He had now had Sleaze and Muyumba playing in front of him, just like we talked about before. The two, it was Almada and Muyumba to begin with, and then it became Sleaze and Muyumba.
Okay.
Right, because Almada moved out to the left on the front. So I liked that. Again, I would have gotten it a little bit different, a little bit better, but it was great. And we come right out of the gate. We turn them over, I think 4 or 5 times in the first 12 minutes. I was like, oh my God, I'm watching real soccer. Right? We are playing the way we are meant to be playing. I was loving it. Yeah. And I wrote in my notes, here comes the comeback. Because as soon as he made the sub, I'm like, we're going to dominate in the midfield.
Okay.
Right. And we did. We started turning them on over and over. But they were still occasionally, because he only had Dax back, they were still kind of breaking. I still thought we were going to come back and win this game.
Okay.
I did. As soon as we got that second goal and it was 2-2, I thought I was like, man, we are going to come back in this game. I completely thought that.
Okay.
I was like, as much as I wanted to be a little bit self-loathing on just making sure Pineda's gone at the end of the season. Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe we don't want Pineda gone if he's actually listening to us on the podcast and getting it right. If
he will actually, honestly, even if you don't get it quite right in the midfield, like I was talking about, that there's a little bit of, choices. If you simply make the outside backs defend and you allow Sleaze the free roll, as we showed in this game, we started winning the ball up the field. The last time I have seen us win the ball up the field that many times was, I don't know,
Cincinnati game?
Never. Not under Pineda, never.
That first half of the Cincinnati game, Sleaze was stepping up and winning it at half.
Yeah, they were terrific. Now, Mascara looks like a shadow of himself. Not Mascara. Muyumba looks like a shadow of himself. I don't know what's wrong with him.
Huh. Like for the last couple games, or just being
games.
freed?
Now, I feel like I was attributing it to him being in, really confined. I said free Muyumba because I thought he was playing terribly because he was so confined. Here he had more of a free roll, and he didn't do the Muyumba. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah. Clearly, on that last goal, he was just no sense of where he was.
If I were watching this, if I were the coach, I would actually sit Muyumba for a game, and I would have played with Dax McCarty and Sleaze. And again, I would play front back, right? Let McCarty have a free roll in front of Sleaze, causing havoc, and he can really read the game too. But then you still have the pace and the coverage of Sleaze. I wouldn't play the double pivot probably. I'd still probably play front back.
Okay.
But it wouldn't be a terrible, like you could play the double pivot too, but I would probably play both of them and not Muyumba, assuming Xande Silva is back, and then I would play Xande Silva. If Xande Silva is not back, then I would have said keep Muyumba and then let Almada play that free roll from the very beginning and start with the extra midfielder with Dax McCarty. I think Dax McCarty, if you gave me the team tomorrow, I would start with a midfield that has 3 defensive players in the midfield. And I would say, let's get the freaking hold of this game, get our backs really aggressive because we're going to win the ball.
Okay.
So do you want to go to the corner kick goal that we let up that seemed to be completely set up in a way that we would be able to put pressure on the one guy that you're going to kick the ball to. We clearly knew that they were going to kick the ball to Benteke. It seemed like we had one guy marking or 2 people that were on top of him, and then 3 zone, and nobody comes out and just hammers him. Nobody hammers him. I want to see some shoulder to shoulder, get up and win this ball right here, Dave.
He's heating up.
Did you see it?
He's on fire.
And so I would, to Pineda's credit, like he can't get on the field and do this. Like, is this heart? This might be a situation where I'm like, how about some effort? Because I know obviously he said something like, please, Mark Benteke. He's scored. He's going to score goals.
Whatever you're going to do, Mark, especially on a
obviously
corner.
Pineda said that, and the assistant coach said it. And so the fact that the players didn't execute here is shambolic.
Yeah. Okay. So let's count. Right. So first of all, such a zone that they've actually left the one guy open standing on Brad Guzan.
Like, Brad, you got him.
This is what I was saying the U.S. women's national team did too. Now, some goalkeepers prefer that. They don't like the extra guy there. So maybe he's saying that. If that's true, that's fine. I'm okay with it. Right. But I would have said, okay, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the box. They have 2 at the top of the box, but they only have 5 in the box. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in the box. So we're playing 9v5. Okay. So
and most of those, 4 of them are in a position to stop the ball from getting to Benteke.
Yes.
To attack the ball.
But at least 3.
Here's the thing. And there's a reason why I would not have lost this game as coach. I can guarantee you. Ooh. Because I would never pick the extra guys just to line up this stupid zone or whatever. I would still have this free zone guy here, which I love at the front post. I might even have a zone guy at the back post, but we still got extra guys in here. You know where they should be? On this post and on this post. So what happens is they're draped all over Benteke, right? Yeah. He still gets the header, and it dribbles across right inside the post. Not at the post. So watch this. So first of all, they're fighting for it.
Not the guy that was right in front of him. He's leaning over and getting.
That's Sleaze who was trying to body him by backing into him.
That's not good defending by Sleaze.
Yeah,
it wasn't. He got bulldozed by the guy that you know is going to bulldoze you. Not strong enough.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not strong enough.
I feel like that's decent defending, and it wasn't great.
That is shambolic defending. You have to. This is the biggest guy in the field, and like you watch. Sorry, Dave. You watch games in the EPL. Every corner kick's like life and death. Like they usually blow the whistle for rub it and like holding the guy. No. You mean to tell me you're not going to be pulling his jersey a little bit, getting something on it? Like who cares? Does any player care that this guy's about to get his damn head on the ball?
Fair. That's fair.
I'm in the locker room. I'm going after the team after this. That's terrible.
I agree, but
I mean. No, it's just there's no.
He's so big. You could have had his jersey and could have been like punching him in his stomach. He might have still got his head on that.
Right.
But Mikey Dodds is like, let me see it. Then.
Let me see it. Because you knew that guy's going to bulldoze every. I mean, he was 6 inches above Schlees, and Schlees is over like, the 2 dogs that come over my backyard. I mean, it doesn't look good.
To be fair, actually, I like what Sleaze is doing there, right? Like, so you're never going to jump over him. What I would have said, I really like the idea that he's trying to body him underneath him and undercut him a little bit, gets him off balance. And when he does that, there's really hard to get any power on the header. And he doesn't. He gets no power on this header, right? It just, so 2 things. First of all,
he got plenty of power on it. He heads it down, bounces off the ground, and
no, you're going to see on the reverse clip. So first of all,
seen it a million times.
First of all, here's what I'm going to say. So first of all, I think if Cohen is the goalie, he saves it. Guzan is so rooted to the line, he never moves. You'll see it on the reverse angle better. And then the second thing is there has to be a guy at least on the near post who would have easily just cleared that ball. Just put it to play. Why? And you're like, okay, maybe you don't do that. If they put so many guys in the box, maybe you couldn't do that. But we have these extra zoners who do nothing. They do nothing, right? So please put them on the post.
We have 9 guys staring at the ball, and then they have 2 people that are like interested.
And we have shown over and over and over that they are not helping to win the ball. So if you're a coach and you're watching those guys and you're seeing like we would last week, where you're like the zoners did nothing, like let's change it up. Yeah. Why do we need the zoners, right? So anyway, watch it. So he had that.
Oh,
it goes in off the post, but watch the reverse angle. They're going to play in a second.
It's going to Benteke.
Yeah.
That's exactly where they're going to hit it. And you can't defend that.
Oh, he didn't even push off.
Yeah.
But here's the one. Here's the one right here.
Push off.
Like, I'm sorry. I have said a bad thing about Schlees since he's been on but that was awful defending by him there.
I think he could have done better. But honestly, if you get it right, I think we keep pointing out that Guzan is just rooted to it. Whether he could have got to that, I don't know. But he just didn't even come close.
But again, I also agree 100% with you. If you have guys on the post, like you said, it puts the pressure on Schlees to know, and the other the 2 players that are on top of him, you better put some pressure on. Like, there's no confusion on, who really needs to get the job done.
To be fair, on
when
that
the ball
play,
comes across.
On that play, Cobb was not. No, I could be wrong. It could have been Sleaze who was the man marker. It was a little unclear. One of the 2 was the man marker. The other one was the zoner, and it was a little unclear.
I would say Schlees knew
Schlees could have been the man marker.
He tried to get my hips underneath the move.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't strong enough.
Yeah. But okay, so if you look at the game, right, I have some problems with what we're doing offensively too, but we scored 2 goals.
Okay.
Right? And we could have scored more. We gave up 3 goals, 2 of which were pretty good goals. One was a really good goal, I think. There weren't horrible mistakes. Actually, the worst mistakes that we gave it away a couple of times, and Guzan, to his credit, made a couple of really good saves and bailed us out.
Oh, good.
So, I got to give him credit to that. He made himself big and he makes those saves. Maybe Cohen doesn't make those saves, right?
Okay.
So, the frustrating thing about Guzan is it's so hard to know whether we should move on because he's not making mistakes. But when you see that play, you're like, he's so rooted. I mean, honestly, again, I'm going to use my favorite excuse. If that's Andre Blake, he would have stepped up and grabbed it and caught it.
Yeah.
It would not have trickled over there. He would have just grabbed it.
Yeah.
All that nimbleness.
Yeah, I mean, super nimble. But Cohen's super nimble too. And I think Cohen would have come over and done the same.
Okay.
I don't think that goes in. And it certainly doesn't go in if you leave a guy on the post because it just would have.
Right.
So, Dave, here we are, almost halfway through the season.
Yeah.
We're heading into summer. We're going to be without Schlees, without Almada for weeks at a time here. Good news is no major injuries to our starting crew. Hopefully Gregerson's knack is temporary from the U.S. Open and he's back. Let's hope it was a concussion and my negativity there around it being a
conspiracy theories be damned.
We get our center backs lined up. Silva's back. Gigi's here. I mean, we have enough to make it through the summer.
Mm-hmm.
especially if we stick with maybe some of the things we saw there that you liked.
Yeah.
So there's some promise there.
We're not doing the crazy ass thing of having our front left and right forwards defending behind our right and left back. That's just nuts. Now, maybe, again, I've said this from the very beginning. I've said, well, maybe if you did that, you'd find out that Lennon and Wiley are not good enough. They don't defend well enough. And that could be what you find out. I think give them a chance. They do better.
Right.
But,
So wasn't good we let 3 goals in this last game. That doesn't help our goals against. But
no.
Do you know how many goals we've given up this season, Dave, after 11 games?
We were doing like top. And then because we were at like 10 for a little bit. But I think we're at like 14 or 16.
14.
Yeah.
14 goals against. And I think that puts us at like roughly 14 or 16 in the league for goals against.
I know Cincinnati's leading the league. I think they've only given up 10.
Yeah. Oh.
Or 10. Where are we?
Yeah. So we're at like was that 9?
7? 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8.
So,
but 8.
We just gave up 3.
It's not so great, and it started out really well, and it hasn't been going well since. And again, what I keep saying is that we keep giving up a lot of goals on not many shots. I mean, maybe Carmen can go pick it up in this game, but look at the shots that we gave up in this game. It wasn't tons. 15 shots. To 15. Well, that's actually more than I thought. But we had 64% possession and we gave up 15 shots.
We only had 3 on target.
This is what we were talking about last week, right? So with that much possession, you cannot give up 15 shots, period.
I do want to say there was something worrying in that game too. And obviously you lose at home in a game that you should have won. Mm-hmm. It did feel like there's you could again see we're on the cusp of maybe Pineda losing the locker room.
It looked like it on the field.
Yakamaki's face.
Not yet. No, not
he
Gigi.
Was kind of a little. You did not see the fire from him.
Nope.
Towards the end of that game.
Really?
No, the care was gone.
Well, even the whole game, the team just didn't seem like they wanted to fight. There's a little bit of dejectedness.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. I think honestly we lost this game because of that.
Yeah.
I think that the tactics were much better. And if this had been the first game of the season,
Oyamba, there was something wrong with him. Gigi, there was something wrong with him. A Wiley, I could see it in his face. I was watching that during the game and I'm like, oh man.
That's not good.
If you lose the team, it doesn't matter whether you have the perfect tactics.
Right.
The moment they are not going that extra little mile and playing and believing in it. If they don't believe in it.
And the fact that Yakamaki's didn't have that I'm going to rip MLS a new one attitude, you didn't see that this game.
No.
You did not.
No, you didn't at all. And the other thing is, as a player, when the coach starts, here's the tactics for the team and the season. And then they switch it. And now I think it's sort of they're switching for a third time on the year, right? I call that flailing. When the coach starts to do that, you lose heart because you're like, does he really know what he's doing? Now we're trying a third tactics. Like if you were really got it right and you really believe in it, right, then it should be right. And coaches, if you get it right and it is right, it should get better, right? If you don't know what you're doing and you don't get it right, it just continues to get worse. And then you either dig in or you start changing things. And even when you change things, even if you change things to what it's right, which I think he did, I think you're right that he's going to tweak it again, because if you don't know what the problem is, you don't know whether you've solved it. So I have said the problem is we're leaving guys wide open out wide. That's our number one thing.
Okay.
Right. And then last season, the center of the midfield was a sieve. Like they're just letting people go through. The way we play tactically in this game, we saw both of those problems. So I would have looked at it and said, in my head, we gave up 3 goals, but it was better. Right. And so if I were now, but again, the moment you lose the locker room, it doesn't matter. If they're not trying hard, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So who are we coming up against next?
We play in the midweek at Cincinnati.
Ooh. Midweek. Ooh.
Yeah, Wednesday game. Yeah.
A extremely tough game. Yeah. Do you think this team has it in them to get a reaction here after disappointing the Bens, getting booed off the field at the end? I don't know, Dave. What was that like? Were the boo birds out? I mean,
a little bit. I think it was a little overplayed. It certainly wasn't a ton.
Yeah,
but there were, for the first time, boo birds for sure.
Yeah.
At halftime, a little bit, and at the end of the game, a little more. Yeah. Does anybody think that we can recover and win on the road in Cincinnati, or have a great showing in Cincinnati? Now, one thing you have to get back. We have to get Stian back.
Yeah.
He actually could save Pineda, right? If he comes back and starts pointing people out and starts reading plays or whatever, and the center gets a little better and he sticks with the tactics,
and then the
it could suddenly get really, really better,
Mm-hmm.
right? But he has got to get Stian back.
Right.
Why did he start him in that U.S. Open game?
That is, I mean, I think it was to try to get him minutes back.
But
This is this crazy
any
thing.
coach that there's an injury, you don't start them as a way to get minutes back. Then you never do that. You give them minutes towards the end of the game.
I have to say, when I saw that, I was like, I don't know what you're doing. I, to be honest with you, probably wouldn't have played him at all. But I would have probably said, look, it's a U.S. Open game. It's against a team that's feisty. That's where someone can come with a bad challenge.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't have played him at
That
all.
makes sense.
I mean, we talk about cautious. That was like the one moment they weren't cautious.
Yeah, we didn't need him.
And then if you don't start him and we get up 3 or 4 goals, then you can make the choice, like give him 10 minutes of the game just to like.
If you see that it's not a ferocious game,
it's just in cruise control. Give him the 10 minutes. If it's still chippy, keep him on the bench. You know,
I completely agree with you, Mike.
So we're going losses all around in Cincinnati. Is that what I got the vibe? Do we even need to take a vote?
I mean,
Carmen?
I'm definitely going loss. I'll go losing by 2. I don't know what it will be. 3-1. Why not?
I even go prediction score. Yeah,
I think
usually I just predict the result, not the score.
Man, I'm gonna go 3-0 Cincinnati.
I'm gonna go 2-0 Cincinnati. We're definitely losing.
Yeah. That's just depressing, man. That we have to be this negative.
All right, should we talk about the bigger picture? So all these people are calling for Pineda to get fired, and I will say, the crazy thing about it is, I actually thought Pineda had finally one of his best tactical games that he's ever had. He finally got a lot of the things right. It's way too late, right? And he may have lost his job before he got it right. But I don't think he really knows that he got it right.
You didn't get to see on the broadcast. They kept zooming in on Pineda.
Yeah.
Talk about faces of a guy who knows he's on the hot seat.
He's in trouble.
Really?
You could see his. Oh man, it was.
As soon as you start flailing when you're changing systems and tactics all the time, right? Then you're in trouble. Yeah. You lose the locker room.
Right. What ATL on Fire is saying is stick with it. And we probably turn around if Gregerson comes back. You've got to rally the team. You got to stick with the tactics being right, and you got to rally the team. If you can do that, and so first of all, I would park the bus in Cincinnati, right? By parking the bus, meaning that I would play with all 3 defensive midfielders. So it would be Muyumba, it would be Sleaze, it would be Dax McCarty for sure. Okay. There is no chance I would play anybody else. And then I would say, let's try to win the ball as much as in the midfield, keep it tight as possible. I would say to Lennon and to Wiley, you're going forward twice a half, maybe. I want you back most of the time. Let's keep it all compact. So then you almost have like Almada and Gigi like playing forwards, but Almada might be out on the left. Saba, you're like, get back and do some defensive duty, try to transition it. I would have left Saba, Gigi, and Almada all up front. Say, don't really defend. Just stay up front, pester them. Let's try to win the ball and quickly get it to them. Let them go 3v4, 3v3, whatever it is. Creative. And see if they can get a goal on it. Yeah. Right. And try for the most part to dominate possession. I would try to go into Cincinnati and use the midfield to dominate possession. We have a midfield that can outplay their midfield. They're really good in the back. So for all those Miles haters, right? They have the best defensive record in the league. Yeah. They've been terrific. If you have a free Muyumba to go up there and actually get 1v1 against Nagby, younger Muyumba, actually be like, hey,
not Nagbe here. That's Columbus. This is Cincinnati.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah. They don't have the midfield.
Yeah.
They've got really one good striker, and he's not physical and not strong, right? So I think it can be done, but
okay,
is he gonna do that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, he showed that he does know that it is a possible formation. But the crazy thing is, in this game, I don't know if I said it, but he started the second half with Dax McCarty. So he had all three of them. It lasted 10 minutes. He only did it as a prelude. He then brought off Muyumba and brought on Zande Silva and went right back to two defenders in the middle. I'm like, why? Stick with, we came back and scored a goal. Stick with it. Right?
Yep.
And so that shows me that he never thought that was a formation. That was just a transition.
Oh, okay.
So all he was doing, what he wanted to do was switch, basically bring on Dax for Muyumba. But instead of doing that, he did it in stages.
Okay.
I don't know why, but it only is 10 minutes. It was like a 10 minutes experiment. 10 minutes is not a... And we scored in those 10 minutes, right? So you would have said, okay, it's working. We won the ball so many times off the field with those three. And then he gave it away again. He brought one of them off. I think because he felt like, I got to get attacking players on the field. I'm like, honestly, I mean, I always talk about Benitez in the Champions League final with Liverpool. They got killed in the opening minutes of the game. I think they went down 2-0. He brought off a striker and brought on a defensive midfielder. Right. And they rallied to win that Champions League final. Right. And that was such a brilliant move because they're getting run over in the midfield. So most people have said, you're down goals. You got to put on a striker. Right. And I think he felt that way. We got to get it, score. So I got to get Zande Silva on there. I would have been like, no, breathe. Breathe. We're dominating the midfield because he doesn't which is so crazy because he was a defensive midfielder. You can score goals just by dominating the midfield and winning the ball up the field. In fact, in the modern game, that's how Liverpool scores. That's how Arsenal scores. That's how Man City scores, right? We finally have the squad to do it.
Yep.
He's got his, he he kind of plays these crazy, his airplane tactics came from some of these, whatever. He finally has a squad to dominate possession, and he doesn't know how to do it.
Have we talked about it all?
Well, so I was
more.
Well, I just gonna
Dave's
say,
got notes.
How do we feel? So the talk of everything is fire Pineda. Are you for firing Pineda or not? And before you do that, I will say,
okay,
I have some stats.
Oh, numbers. Okay.
So I have said if we're going to fire Pineda, which you can't do in the middle of the year for this strategy, I would say make the boss move, right? And hire either Pat Noonan, the Cincinnati coach, or Wilfred Nancy. You weaken the opponents and you gain things, okay? So just for comparison, for those of you people that say, is Pineda that important, whatever. Neither Nancy at Columbus, nor certainly not Noonan at Cincinnati, have nearly the payroll that we have. I don't think either of those teams actually have as good a squad as us. I think Columbus, people would argue, they're a very comparable squad to us. But I think we have a better squad than Cincinnati, right? Anyway, the records. Okay. Wilfred Nancy, who actually played with a terrible Montreal squad before coming to Columbus, but his record in MLS, 141 games, right? 67 wins, 36 ties, 38 losses, a winning percentage of almost 50%. Okay. So, and his goals for 241, goals against 183. So that's like almost a plus 60 in 140 games. So Noonan and Pineda have coached almost exactly the same amount of time. They both coached 100. Wilfred Nancy has coached less at Columbus, but overall with the worst team in Montreal, he has a much better record, Pineda. For comparison, Pineda in 104 games, 37 wins, 29 ties, like 38 losses. It's 36.
36% winning percentage?
Yeah, compared to Nancy, who's like basically 50. 50.
Okay.
So that's like 13 points higher. And his goals for Pineda, 172, goals against 156. So it's plus, but it's plus by like 15, right? Keep in mind, Nancy, at a little more games, is a plus 60. And Pat Noonan, who has almost exactly the same number of games, right? So Noonan has 100 and Pineda has 104.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So Pat Noonan has won 49, tied 30, and lost 21, also for a winning percentage of 49, almost 50.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So again, that's 13 points above Pineda. And the goal differential, 166 for, 122 against. So this plus 40. Pineda is plus 15, approximately. So we're talking about in the same conference, in the same league, with certainly not a better squad. And I think in Cincinnati, you could argue, certainly when Pat Noonan took over, they were last place team.
So how am I feeling about Pineda staying is where we're getting here.
That was the prelude.
Oh, I'm not as analytical as you on that. I'm just going, where are we right now as a team that has a very good squad? We are looking at some of the statistics on what was the analytic website that had some of the
what
stats.
was it called?
Super Stats or something like that.
Yeah, from
one of the guys on Twitter
Gillis.
posted the pinwheels. It kind of breaks down. And by the way, if you're wondering, like, is Almada good? All the stats say he's top of the league in everything that matters.
Basically every offensive category.
Any offensive category in terms of creative, dangerous passing, accurate passing.
He's not good in the defensive statistics, though.
Not good in the defensive. Very poor.
Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane.
This team should obviously be doing better. He has had plenty of time to, I mean, and by the way, like, Dave, there's not enough body of evidence, again, game over game. Like, if Pineda the next 2 games still instills some of the things he corrects some of the things. So give me 2 more games of Dave saying Pineda fix it. 1 game is just an anomaly.
Yeah, it might just be the DC. I don't know whether that or is with really tactics. I mean, at the beginning of the year, he stopped the stupid airplanes.
Yep.
Now, again, this is where
overcorrection.
Well, no, it's not just overcorrection. I think it's correcting and not understanding it. So it's one thing to stop the airplanes, but he actually literally put Wiley in a holding pattern. Like, you can never be an airplane and can never go forward. And Lennon, you can always go, and Wiley, you can't.
Wiley, you can't be an airplane and you can't defend is actually what happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm saying. So just fixing certain things like we're talking about, it's not good enough just to stop the airplanes. You actually still have to allow them to attack, because otherwise you don't score goals. You need them to dynamically pick their moments and go. And when they're back, instead of doing stupid tactics, you got to get them defending.
Yeah. Get out there, win the ball.
Get out there and win the ball. and they're, as advanced analytics show, none of our defenders are doing a great job winning the ball.
Well, Sleece
is number 1, of anybody midfield in the whole MLS, according to the analytics. Right. Like, he's amazing at winning the ball, and that's what we've been saying. Yeah. And Almada and Gigi also look amazing offensively. So all of that is consistent with what we've been saying.
Yeah, which is consistent with what everybody's saying online, is we've got a great roster.
We do.
And we just don't have the coach to take us to the next level. He's just gotten too much of a runway at this point. I mean, we entered last season saying we need to get rid of him.
Yeah, last season for the squad we had was not good. Honestly, for the first half season that he did terribly. I mean, we were on a super roll, and he could have came right in and rolled into the playoffs, and he didn't. And that was the first season. And then the second season was woeful. We didn't even make the playoffs. So his first full year in charge was awful. And people said, oh, it's because of the team or whatever. And we argued the team may not have been as good as this team, which is probably the best team, but it was still a top 6 team, and he finished out of the playoffs.
Here's the other thing, Dave. People always say, oh, well, you need a coach who understands the MLS. Tata didn't understand the MLS.
No.
Mm-mm.
I don't think we need a coach that understands the MLS for
and look at the Canadian
Shinola.
coach, Hanneman.
Yeah.
And he came from national team duty. He is now the Toronto coach, and a last place team. Oh, it's suddenly a third place team.
Yeah.
How can we not already have if Garth is doing his job right now? I'm sorry. He's on the hook for me right now. So he's obviously done well getting us, financially correct. It seems like our books are in order. We've got a good roster. He's letting Bocanegra do his thing. He's signing off on those things. So we've got a good roster. It sounds like we're in a financially good space. he's got to, at this point, address the coaching. So, yes, I think he, at this point, should already have a plan in place for someone to be swooping in right now and say, thank you, Pineda, for your time here, and get somebody in to correct the season right now. Because that's the beautiful thing about the MLS. There's this crazy
so much
playoff
forgiving,
system that you can be like 8th or 9th and still make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And if we get a good coach in place, we've got the talent.
Yeah.
If they get healthy, all those things fall into place after Amada's gone and Schließ is back. Everybody's healthy, man. We can still make a run.
I'm not
with a different coach.
I'm not usually in favor of switching the coach mid-season. And in times when we thought he should get sacked last year, like people are like, what? Because he finished 4th and he was going to play it. But like you could see it. The tactics were wrong. The play was wrong. We were never going to contend in the playoffs, and we didn't. Like we just got run off the field by Columbus. But
and do you really think, from what you saw in that last game, that Pineda is going to come out and roll out that same system 2 games consistently?
No, I think if he had known that was the problem, he would have done it long before now. And the fact that it's now means that he doesn't really know there's a problem. It's flailing. He may have got it right, but when you don't know it, you won't get it right because you won't stick with it if you do know it's right. And honestly, if you don't trust it, if you don't feel it, if you can't communicate it. So you can't tell Wiley what he's supposed to be doing or why it's not working if you don't believe it, if it's not what you know. So even if he gets it right, he's not going to get it right. And so what I would say is, do you think
that they're breaking down the play that we just broke down?
Yeah.
Where Wiley gets, like, to your point, like, guys, like, this is 1v1.
Yeah.
They had to go around you to beat, like, you know, it was a good goal. Look at it. They knocked it out of the back.
Yeah.
Wiley, you should have done better, but this is soccer. You get people get beat.
Happen.
That happens. Yep. Like, we're not throwing you under the bus, but just do A and B different next time. And I think we're good. Like, that's all you have to do and not overcomplicate it.
I think he's been doing that all season. He keeps talking about, it's just unlucky. It's an individual mistake. And it hasn't been. That's the problem. When he keeps saying it's an individual mistake, it hasn't been. It's been tactics. These was, if you want to say there's an individual moment of, lapse of whatever.
So funny. Like, this is like, you've heard me like complain, like Schließ and Wiley getting beat. The other one, I thought
Wiley got beat 1-on-1.
Yeah.
But he was in the right position. He just got beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he's got it all backwards. He doesn't understand it. Yeah. Right. So I would have said, normally I just don't favor dropping a coach mid-season, but here's the problem I have. You don't have Almada for very long. Right. Yeah. And this is a team capable of winning the MLS.
Mm-hmm.
With a different coach.
Yeah. And so I would be tempted to pull the trigger. Now, we have talked about how, I mean, it's funny I'm saying that on the game. I'm actually saying his best tactics of the year. Yeah. But we have always said, and the thing that why I could never say whether we should pull the trigger or not is you never fire a coach unless you have a succession plan you really, really know and are confident in. Yeah. So many teams, when they get into trouble, they're like, I've done with this coach. I'm fire him. And now I'm going to think about who the next coach is.
Yeah.
Because the devil, right? Like, it's basically until you know you have something better, don't do it.
But that's why I'm talking about this is so on Garth right now. This is not a secret in Atlanta.
Right.
That Pineda, the world has questioned over the last year and a half, particularly this podcast, whether he's the right coach for the future. And if he hasn't been reaching out on the phone or having, somebody reach out on the phone to all these potential opportunities, and I don't even know what's out there right now that's on the free market, because you can't still steal other MLS coaches until the season's over.
The other thing is, as Pineda's contract runs out at the end of this year, so if you fire him or whatever, you don't lose that much. You pay off the rest of the half year. It's not a big deal.
Money's not the issue, though.
But even so,
and as the European season wraps up here in a timely fashion, are there any European coaches that can make their way over?
I heard some people on Twitter being like, Tuchel, because he's gotten sacked at Bayern Munich. Tuchel's a funny coach.
Hell yeah, I take him.
Tuchel's an interesting coach.
Over Pineda, sure.
Why not? He might be my least favorite coach, but I will sign him up yesterday.
Right?
He's an interesting coach.
He's a weirdo.
Because He does amazing in the cup competitions and has not really won leagues
Perfect.
consistently.
It'd be great for MLS Cup. The only thing that matters in this league. So.
Yeah, you get into playoffs because what he seems to do is he seems to set his team up always to null the other team, and he's not really good about actually saying this is our identity and we're going to get cohesiveness and play well consistently. That's how you win a league. And there are a lot of coaches actually who can win leagues, right? They know their best team, they get them to play well, but then they come up in a Champions League or in a cup, an FA Cup, and they get upset because they're like, this is what we do. We just keep doing it. And you're like, yeah, but you still need to do something special for Benteke because he's their one guy, right? So there's this balance.
How is Munich doing in the Bundesliga this year?
They didn't win. That's the problem.
They didn't win.
That's why he got fired, because they're finishing third, I think, which is the first time they haven't won in since,
Where did inappropriate comment guy land?
Bruce Arena?
Yeah. Where's he now?
He's not coaching.
He's in limbo.
He's a guy who could take over. Absolutely. Would I fire Pineda and take Bruce Arena? Absolutely. Now, we don't know what the comment was.
Yeah, we're not sure about that.
If it was, racist or sexist, we got a problem. If it was just being a jerk.
But as long as no one really knows.
People will know, right? There's no way you can hide it once he gets, hired or whatever. Once he gets,
The fact he hasn't been hired yet probably says something. I don't know.
He interviewed.
Okay.
For, I think, the Charlotte position. Yeah. But he's a guy, again, one of the things you could be like short term, right? You could just bring him in. Honestly, he would probably take a 6-month, basically a contract to the end of the year. So look, okay, you have to the end of the year. We're going to fire Pineda. You have to the end of the year. If you somehow go on a miracle run,
the PR isn't going to be any worse here in Atlanta.
I mean,
you know what I mean? Like
that's an interesting move.
That's an interesting move.
And he's old enough; he doesn't need that much. He might be like, "Well, that squad, yeah, I could win MLS."
We'll find out what the dirty laundry is. We'll see what the backlash is.
Yeah. Do our due diligence.
I like that.
The season could, that might not be a bad one. No. Or Tuchel.
Tuchel's a funny guy.
He is a funny guy.
I mean, he's a good coach. He clearly can coach. Yeah. And particularly in the cup competition, he got fired and then they let him stay on for the rest of the year. And then he almost won the Champions League.
Gotta love it.
Which is like the second time.
I don't think he's good for players.
No.
Player development.
He's not a good manager. The players don't really love him.
Yeah. Players.
And that's a problem. That's why you got to play week in and week out. They have to love you.
You could tell Christian Pulisic hated that dude.
Yeah.
And so did a lot of other players. Like
he won the Champions League at Chelsea too, right?
Yeah, and everybody was unhappy winning until they actually lifted that cup. That was kind of an unhappy team. It was weird.
Yeah,
you could see it.
Special dude.
But we're already an unhappy team here in Atlanta, and if you get us an MLS Cup by just tweaking some things, I'm cool with that.
Or just let them play. Like I'm almost like you said last week. At some point, it's just like it can't get any worse. Just let them play.
Yeah.
Forget all the tactics. Just bring somebody in who can kind of.
Yeah. But that might get us to like I don't know, like the Sweet 16 or whatever we call it.
Just to get us through. Just to get us through until we can go steal somebody.
We might win the first round of plays. Probably not because we're not going to end up in the top
I bet
4.
if you brought in Bruce Arena,
think
we would contend instantly.
Yeah. Ooh, where's he at? Where he at? Let's give him a call.
I bet we would. I mean, that's what's scary, right?
All right, we have talked about it all. We've landed the plane.
We have.
Yeah, Danny Rojas. If you're still here, you're Saints.
I know.
I think there are 2 people still here. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great week. It's Monday here. Who knows? It's the MLS. Everybody gets a trophy. Next week, guys.
Bye, guys.